Well, welcome to this special edition of my podcast called The Best Life Ever. And the reason that I created this podcast is because I've met so many people along the line in my life that have been through meat grinders and came out whole anyway. And I have met them in every state I lived in. And for a while, I lived in Georgia. 21 years, I had a house there. I still have lots of friends there. And over the weekend, I went and I met a new friend. And while I was there and we were having a good time, I got a text from my friend Bernice's daughter. Bernice lives in Georgia also, about an hour and a half of where I was staying. And her daughter wanted me to know that Bernice wanted me to know that she was in the hospital. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Bernice. And this whole podcast is going to be about this incredible legend, Bernice. So she had asked me if I could help her with something. Her daughter asked me. And I said, of course. And it went on a text. And she said that the doctors gave her a grim review of what was going on with her mom. There was two choices. One, if she had surgery, if she came out of it, she would be on a ventilator for the rest of her life. She was 90 years old. If she didn't have the surgery, then it would mean death. And I said to her daughter, I kind of think you're getting the same result from two different options. And I know Bernice. She does not want to live in a ventilator. And she would love to see Jesus because we talked about it so many times. So I think you should let it run its course and see what happens, see what God's will is. And she thanked me and said that gave her some peace. And then we got off the phone. I said, just make sure you call me and tell me what happened. So about 1:40 on Sunday, a couple days ago, I got a text saying that Bernice had passed. Now, of course, first I cried because she was the dearest, most wonderful Christian sister, a political buddy. We had all on the same page. She was my nutritionalist doctor, no doubt about it. And I am going to miss her so much. She sent me cards and letters out of the blue with little things in it all the time. And I know that it's going to be a great loss. But I also know she's quite happy because she wanted to be with Jesus, don't we all? So she went to heaven. And at one time I had thought about, oh, if I could just get Bernice on this podcast, that would be fantastic. But I knew that she had some difficulties. I talked to her on her birthday, and her hands were giving her a hard time, and she had an obstruction, and ultimately what killed her. So she can't be on the podcast. But I thought, wouldn't it be great to do a tribute to her? Because she truly is a legend. And you'll know why I say that when I tell you what I know about her. Now, I wish she could be here because she would tell you all the facts. I'm going to tell you what I remember and what I know. But let me tell you how we met. We met in Georgia at this little church called Riverwood in Norcross, Georgia, I think it was. And we both went, and neither one of us cared for the church a lot. So we both decided to leave. And when we left, we wanted to remain friends. And so we did. And so for years, on Fridays, her and I got together, had dinner at her house, which, by the way, at that time, she was probably, let me think, I've known her for 20 years. So she was like 70 or something. It's close to that. She lived on the third floor of an apartment complex. I could barely get up those stairs. And I'm thinking, why is she up here? I asked her one time, I said, how do you get your groceries up and everything? And she's like, well, just a couple bags at a time, whatever I could carry. And that's all I do, a little at a time. I'm like, wow, I'm out of breath. And every time I went to her house, I was out of breath, but she did that every day. And I was pretty amazed. She said, well, hey, it gives me exercise. The other thing that had connected us is that I'm more of a natural health person. So I make sure that I do what's natural first. And the reason is when I was 21 years old, a doctor gave me um, a prescription to sulfa, and he kept giving it to me, and I ended up being deadly, fatally, almost fatally allergic to it. And in other words, I almost died. But obviously I didn't because I'm here, but I end up in the hospital for a good 40 days way back when. And it was quite an experience. And maybe one podcast I might talk about that, but I overcame it and I moved on. But I had decided from that moment on that I wasn't going to take medicine anymore. And here I am. And I do not take antibiotics. I have no medications. I'm living my aging life without being medicated by a doctor. And part of it is because of a doctor that I know in Dundee, Illinois. His name is David Kobaba. And also Bernice. She kept me going even after I wasn't living in Illinois anymore. So we would get together every Friday at her house. She would make dinner and we would crack open the Bible and we would talk about the future of our whole world. And we would put the news headlines together, what was in the Bible. We also liked to listen to David Jeremiah a lot. And he was part of our confirmation that we were on the right page. But we also listened to other people too. And sometimes we watched a video. But it was an exciting time to be with her because she had some incredible answers and some incredible wisdom to what was going on. And we kept a close eye on what was going on in politics in our world and some of the crazy things that they did back then. I'm talking, 90s, early 2000s. But then I got called out of state. And so I ended up living in another state, but we still stayed in touch. And she would send me cards. She said, "Where are you now?" And I'd tell her, and she'd send me a card with all the little stuff stuffed in there. She was just a delight. But one of the things that just blew me away as I got to learn more about this little lady, and let me tell you, she was little. I think maybe 4'9". She was about the size of my best friend, Donna. Also, I must like people that are about 4'9". They're like my best friends. I've got one right now that's a little shorty too. And so she was a short lady and but powerful. And she told me some stories about how she got into the nutritional end of life. And that's what I want to really share with you today because she became a legend through a very bold move in her life. And we shared a lot. She had, issues with her kids. She lost a son, and she just kept going. And that was one of the reasons why I thought I'd have her on the podcast because she's one of those people that went through the meat grinder and came out whole anyway. And that's why I wanted her to share her story. But since she can't, I want to tell you about how she got into being a natural nutritionist advisor. So she was a nurse. She went to school, became a cardio a nurse. She became a surgical nurse. She was an ER nurse. She also was a PRN. She did all these incredible things in the medical field. And one day she said, I attended this surgery and I could see that I just didn't like the way things were going. And then it made me think about I didn't like the way a lot of things were going in the medical industry. I went home that night and I thought there's got to be a better way. So she decided to start reading up on natural methods and treatments and how she could see that sometimes doctors might have jumped the gun on giving too much medication or doing a surgery that it was only going to result in something bad rather than trying to find alternatives. And so she discovered all these things and it just kind of blew her away. So she went into the hospital and she quit. And she decided that she was going to help people in a natural way. And when I met her, she was working at this very large very unique vitamin herb store in Norcross, Georgia. It was a fabulous place. It wasn't like, a GNC or something like that. It was this big place, and they had advisors, and Bernice was one of their best advisors. She would walk around the aisles of this store, ask people what they were looking for, what they wanted to treat, and how she could help them. And she knew every bottle in that place, every brand, because she sat through all the presentations, what it did, what it didn't, what was in it. And she would know just where to bring the person to get the right pill for them at that time, or the right vitamin or herb. And so it got to be known that you could go see Bernice and she could help you. And she was right on all the time. It got to be that whenever I had anything, or even one of my friends, if they had some sinus problems or cold or an earache or this or that, I would say, let me call my friend Bernice. And she would know what to use to get through that time. And she was always right on. The key about naturals is what we learned, her and I, is that you really can't overdose on them. I mean, some people could maybe doesn't fit well with them, but for the most part, you can't overdose on them. That's the first thing with medicine. You can, and I had a personal experience with that almost killed me. And the other thing that we both learned is that when you're going to do something natural versus take the medication, it could take a little bit longer to get the result, but you don't have any chemicals in your body, no side effects, and nothing else. But you do have to be patient and trust your body to do what it's supposed to do with a little help. So when I moved, and I moved a couple times, I always, with anybody who had a problem, I said, let me call Bernice. She'll know what to do. She kept notes. I mean, I'm going to ask her daughter if she has these notes, because if she does, I want them. She kept notes on everything she ever read or learned about when it comes to nutrition. And she was able to tell me, even all the way up to 90 years old, of what was the best vitamin or herb or treatment for the natural way for ailments. I called her all the way up until last year and asked her questions about something for one of my friends. She had the answer at the tip of her head. Now I know that this vitamin store ended up closing, and they went to online. So that put her out of a job. We both kind of shook our heads and thought, like, why would they do that? Because people can't come to an online as easy as they can in a store and look for Bernice. And she wasn't a part of the online, so they weren't getting the advice and the suggestions. It was going to be more like, you put in what your ailment is, and then here's some suggestions. You have to read the ingredients and figure it out for yourself, pretty much. So they removed this human relation element of going into that store, and Bernice was no longer there. But at the end of the day, when she was to leave, I understand there were hundreds of people that came or gave her cards or came to say goodbye. Or, I mean, like there was a flood of people that she helped. And every one of them told stories of how she offered this vitamin when they were going to go in for this vitamin and how well it worked. I think that over the years and years that she worked there, and I know it had to be, I think it was 20 years, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly when she moved to Georgia. She was a transplant like myself. I was from Chicago. I want to say she was from the East Coast, and I don't remember. Isn't that sad? But because she was a really true friend, but I don't remember. Um, but thousands of people came through that store looking for and asking for Bernice. And she helped every one of them, to the point some of the other people that worked in the store would get jealous because they're like, well, they all go to Bernice. They only want to talk to Bernice. She was so right on about what was good for them. And still to this day blows my mind that she knew the brands like the back of her hand. And she studied. She said that when she stopped being a nurse, that she put as much serious energy into learning about nutritional and the natural body and how it heals that she had becoming a nurse. And you can tell that she really did do that. I think it was about when she was 83, probably. Maybe we knew each other, but maybe it was later, maybe 85. She started having problems with her hands, arthritis. And so she did everything that she knew how. And then she said to me, you know what? I'm aging and this is part of the process. And I'm not, I don't have the control over my hands. I can't open things and just things are getting hard to grip. And she said, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I just don't think that I could, keep living where I'm at by myself. Well, she had a daughter, Brenda, who I think is the most wonderful daughter ever. Now, when I first met her, there was some divisions there, but they worked it out. And Brenda ended up being the most beautiful caregiver to her mom the last 5 or 7 years. I know that one time when I went to visit her, we took a walk. She wanted to go for a little hike, so we did. But we got like, I don't know, half a mile in, and all of a sudden she didn't feel good. And luckily there was like a bench right there, so I could put her there. And I had to call her daughter and say, please, you got to come and get us. We're in the middle of the trail and your mom's not feeling good. And I'm not sure what to do. She ran like the Dickens from wherever she was. Took about, I don't know, 25, 30 minutes for her to get there. But then by that time, Bernice was feeling a bit better, and both of us walked her back to Brenda's house, which was right around the corner. So Brenda ended up buying a house with a room that her mom could have to live out her days. And what a blessing. Brenda has a daughter and a husband, and they lived there, the little family. And she lived there in her room and did what she could with her hands. At some point at the end, she couldn't even hold a phone. And she would say, I can't text you. I can't talk to you unless Brenda helps me because I can't even pick up my phone to talk into it. So we didn't get to talk a lot, but she still sent me cards and everything. But I just want everyone out there to know that that generation is even after mine, it falls more in the builder generation. They just had some stamina. No matter what happened, you picked yourself up and you kept going. And I'm not saying they didn't mourn or cry or kick the dirt. They could have did all those things when bad things happen, but they never let it stop them. They didn't have a victim mentality that I see today. I don't know how young people are going to get it over that. There's still hope because, we all, when we're young, we do stupid things. We think stupid things. We don't know any better. So it's possible a lot of this younger generation could figure out that, hey, this world is not smooth sailing. Not everybody really gets a trophy because you don't deserve it. And, life is just a challenge. How am I going to survive? Where will I go? How am I going to do this? I watched Bernice just really get through some really bad times in her life, and she shared some of the tragedies that she had and just decided, you know what? I'm going to help other people. I'm a nurse. And then she saw that wasn't doing what she wanted because it wasn't really helping people. She felt it was killing people. So she went on and had a whole second career of being in the same industry in a way, saving people physically, but on a more natural nutritional basis. Some of the supplements that she suggested, I still take to this day. I've been taking it for so long that I don't get sick like a lot of the people around me. Like I can walk into a room where people have having the flu or the cold, and I just escape it because I have this immune system from all the supplements and things that I've taken for years and years and years. I take them in the morning. They're just like part of my life. And it was because of Bernice. You find out what your body weaknesses are, and then you do your best to feed that area in a very positive manner, and keep it healthy and alive as long as you possibly can. You know, we only are allowed 121 years on this earth. You don't know when your time is going to start breaking down your body, you know. You don't know. So you take care of it like it's gold as long as you possibly can. And then like Bernice, um, you know, who used to walk up 3 flights of stairs with groceries at 83 and liked it. uh, you know, it lasted that long. That's a long time to be healthy enough to do something like that. And then when it started to unwind, she had to have someone take care of her, and she was willing to do that. She wasn't stubborn and ugly and saying, "No, I am not doing that." She just knew that it was time for somebody to help her, and her daughter was just a beautiful, beautiful daughter to her. So that is my tribute to a beautiful friend who is no longer here, but she left a legend. She definitely left a legacy for thousands of people I know that she helped in that store. And even after talking to them, sending information, helping them to know what was the right natural process to take to get healthy. And so many people did get healthy and are still healthy because of things that she guided them with, and didn't have surgeries and some other things that, you know, doctors will tell you first off right away, oh, you know, do this. I went to a doctor for my back, and she's a surgeon. She like, well, I'm not having surgery on my back. I went physical therapy, and she goes, oh, well, that's smart. Well, you know what? It's because I know it works and I have to work at it, but it's much better than surgery on your back if you can help it. Everybody I know that's ever had surgery on their back is not any better off. So, so yeah, I learned a lot from Bernice. So thank you, Bernice. I know you're sitting on the lap of Jesus right now, and you're probably looking down, smiling. And every time I think of some of the funny things that we did together and how I made you laugh, because you were a very serious person sometimes, it makes me smile instead of cry that you're not here. You did a good, you had a good road, and I am so happy that I got to spend some of that time with you. So I'm signing off. And I will tell you, I've got some exciting people coming on next. One is a guy that was in a cult and got out of it. Oh, he's got a story. And then I have another one that's coming. She was a Chicago police officer, in the military, and then became a social worker. So she's a doll. You're going to love her too. So stay tuned. I hope you enjoyed my little tribute to Bernice. I know it was a little bit different, but let me tell you, she was worth it, and it's worth to hear about a legend. Maybe somehow it encouraged you to look at a natural resource versus taking a lot of medications or following every single thing your doctor tells you. Look into alternatives. You'll live a lot longer and you'll be happier. Signing off. Have a good one.